Welcome and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. I'm your host, Yannis Papadakis, Business Development Manager at Crexi, and today we're actually thrilled to sit down with Elizabeth Maddox and Ian Maddox, the 2 to 4 unit specialists. Before we dive in, a little bit about our guests. Elizabeth and Ian Maddox are a husband and wife duo and the owners of the 2 to 4 unit specialists, a brokerage in Los Angeles that specializes in small multifamily sales, leasing, and management with an emphasis on new construction. With over $350 million sold and thousands of units rented, the 2 to 4 unit specialists are experts in all things related to duplex, triplex, and fourplex investments. Elizabeth got her start in real estate as early as 18 years old, earning her real estate license at a young age. While at UCLA, she began work at Marcus & Millichap, which served as the foundation for her real estate career. Thousands of cold calls, actually probably hundreds of thousands of cold calls later, Elizabeth made the decision to merge her love for commercial investing with her passion for smaller multifamily properties, resulting in the 2 to 4 unit specialists. Her goal was to bring a more residential, heartfelt touch to the apartment industry while maintaining the sophistication and smarts of a large commercial brokerage shop. Ian joined the team shortly after, coming from a career in the advertising and television world. Ian's eye for marketing and top-tier branding was responsible for transforming the 2 to 4 unit specialists into the well-known brand it is today. He's earned a nickname for himself within the industry as a capable and versatile deal maker. It's not uncommon to find Ian up on the roof or under a crawl space, getting his hands dirty to help carry the deal across the finish line. In 2015, when the new construction small apartment boom began, Elizabeth and Ian were at the forefront, selling the very first one of its kind, then the next, beating out historical records each time. They presently hold more than 15 all-time sales records across Los Angeles. Now the team works with more than 50 of LA's best real estate developers, advising on everything from start to finish: floor plans, design, maxing out rents, resale value. Together, Ian and Elizabeth run the brokerage with a great team in place, while also enjoying their journey as husband and wife, mom and dad, making them a true mom and pop shop while transacting at a volume that puts them in the top 1% nationwide. They have 2 kids, keeping them busy as they stay at home while they work. Ian and Elizabeth, welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
Hi.
Wow.
How are you?
What a list of accolades, and raising 2 kids at the same time. How do you do it? What performance enhancing substances get you to this level and also parent?
Oh,
It's wild.
lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee. Yeah. I think
day.
I've had 4 this morning. It's not noon yet. Nothing motivates you. I think like getting married, having kids, I think it's incredibly motivating. You know, we highly recommend it to our friends who aren't married with kids yet.
Yep.
I think that our performance has grown exponentially when you have, you know, it's not just the mouths to feed thing, but you want to make sure that you're setting up a future for them.
Yep.
And I think that it's that goal really goes well with our industry, because the vast majority of clients that we work with are families. You know, you see a lot of, father and son, mother-daughter teams, husband-wife teams. And I would say more often than not, we hear our clients talking about the reason that they're buying multifamily is to set their kids up for the future. And
Yep.
That's what we're doing ourselves as well, both in sales and in, just being landlords and building a portfolio.
Yeah,
Excellent.
It really is the perfect career for us because it gives us so much flexibility, and it is challenging because there's, much of the time where we're getting to hang out with our kids, we're, having to hop on a phone call with a client.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's worth it with the amount of time we get to spend with them.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Awesome.
Good balance.
So before we dive further into your market and your business, I'd like to know a little bit more about how you 2 got into this industry. Why choose commercial real estate? What was the original plan?
So, well, it starts with a little bit of a funny story. When I was 18, my dad caught me sneaking out, and the punishment was quite creative. It was to go get my real estate license. So that kind of was the start of a fun real estate career. And, wanting to get ahead, get a strong resume. I, got my real estate license at 18. And then from there went on to Marcus & Millichap, and my grandma had units throughout the valley. She had her, mom and pop small multifamily units, and I helped. I saw my dad help growing up, And I love the niche, and, went from Marcus and Millichap to, pursuing the passion of dealing with the smaller stuff, the more mom and pop people. And, that's where it all came from.
Yeah. And for me, honestly, real estate was something that I think has always kind of revolved around me. I bought my first property when I was, I guess, 19. It was perfect timing, 2008, everything went
Okay.
down. I was living in a condo that was getting foreclosure letters. I was renting it. So I went and purchased it in a short sale straight from the bank. So I always had an interest in owning property. I never really thought about real estate sales until we were together. I think we had just gotten engaged. She had just kind of decided to leave Marcus and Millichap and start her own brokerage, get a brokerage license, which was a really impressive thing for me to see. Because I was working kind of half entrepreneur, half paycheck, working for production companies and studios. I was doing marketing, doing big commercial ads, selling television shows. So I had, some of that was freelance and selling my own stuff, and some of it was working for a production company. But to see her really take up the charge to start a business by herself was really inspiring. And I jumped in head first to partner up with her and do it together. It's great. I mean, it's exactly what I think we always wanted for our life, was to work together, shoulder to shoulder. It's how I saw my parents, growing up. They ran a business together. They were together, shoulder to shoulder, through it all and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think the goal was the lifestyle, and this industry, met the requirements to deliver that lifestyle.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So moral of the story is, if you're a teenager watching this right now, sneak out, because it could lead to a very successful career later. What were some of the lessons that you learned early on that you feel prepared you for this industry? Or just for being an entrepreneur in general?
I think the biggest thing, and I'm sure you've seen it, is you're going to get a lot of no's. It takes a lot of no's to finally get a yes. And you have to persevere. You have to have a very strong mindset to go into real estate, especially commercial.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't get discouraged. In the entertainment industry, we called it's terrible, but the phrase that everybody used was drowning your babies. You have to be okay with letting things go. Not everything works out. You might invest a lot of time into a developer or a client, and it doesn't always work out. You kind of just have to keep going. Doesn't matter how many people yell at you when you're cold calling, you got to keep going and just count each no as another step towards a yes, for sure.
And I think, honesty is another big thing.
Yeah.
That's something we value a lot. I feel like there are a lot of people out there who are like, I want to, buy this listing, put my sign up.
Yeah.
And actually having an honest approach has helped us a lot over the years, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, just making sure that you're proud of the business that you're providing, and that's another way to look at it. I think that we, in a lot of ways, we kind of consider ourselves the anti-agent. And I would encourage younger, new licensees or people who are starting out to kind of think of themselves in the same way. I think that there's a lot of old tricks and old methods out there that just don't work in the new world. And I think that looking at what you're doing as a business, as a startup, as selling a product, I think that especially in commercial, you can do that. Maybe not so much residential unless you're doing a lot of new development. But if you look at it that way, you don't get hung up on just like the old shticky real estate transaction thing, and you can really just build your business and build your brand.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about that brand and talk about that business. Could you tell me more about the company that you two started? How did you build your success within the Los Angeles multifamily scene?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was really coming out with a hyper niche. And, that helped us obviously build up steam, just really laser focusing. And then from there, in 2015, when the new construction fourplexes really, became a thing, that's where it went on to, take us to the next level. And You want to add?
Yeah. I mean, I think that what we do is really a hyper niche. It's not just duplex, triplex, fourplex, a small section of multifamily or commercial real estate, and kind of bridging a gap between people who are maybe like owner occupiers or first time investors and people with major portfolios, who are doing 20 transactions a year. It's really a hyper niche there. But on top of that, we also focus on these new constructions. Again, we sell everything. We sell 1900 buildings, 1920s, 1950s, but the vast majority of what we sell are these brand new construction fourplexes. And I think that we just really made sure that we did a good job, that we made sure that buyers wanted to come back and buy again. And if that meant putting skin in the game, if that meant, rolling up our sleeves, whatever we had to do to make sure that they were happy, that we walked our talk with rents, we were honest about what these were really going to rent at. I think that Liz really set the standard for this niche. Obviously, people have been building a lot longer than, 2015 when this wave of development kind of came along. There's a lot of fourplexes and multifamily in Los Angeles that are a lot older than that. Yep. But our generation of new development, Liz really set the standard. And it's true. She, the very first one of these, the big blue boxes, the 3-story townhome, 3 and 4 bedroom unit apartments, very modern. When these started being built, developers didn't know how to price them. They didn't know what kind of cap rates to offer. I mean, people are out there buying, 3%, 3.5% cap rates, and developers thought, oh, well, that sounds good. Can I do that? And Liz really pitched them on, look, this doesn't need to be like a couple time thing. Let's set this up for success, for a big, bright future. If we offer 5+ cap rates on these buildings, you'll have buyers forever. There's enough meat on the bone for you to do that and crank them out, sell them fast, build another one. And I think that was really what turned it, not that the whole niche hangs on our backs, but I think that's really what got so many people interested in doing it. Was it was a long-term model that a lot of people could do and rinse and repeat, because it was a win-win for buyers. Win-win. It was a win for sellers. It was a win for renters. They were getting the best price that they could get, based on the sales price. We could offer rents that were more attractive per room, than a 1 or 2 bedroom out there. So when you got 4 roommates splitting a 4 bedroom 4 ways, it's actually the most affordable rent in Los Angeles. So
while giving the strongest rent roll, obviously, for the buyers.
Right, exactly. So I think her involvement and my involvement really early on helped set it up as something that could be, done forever. And I got to tell you, it's just now that prices started dropping. Obviously, there's a lot of other factors, the world economy, but just now that these asking prices started dropping below a 5 cap, sure enough, that's when things started slowing down.
So I'm curious about what you said, that it's a hyper niche. What are the risks and advantages of focusing on a hyper niche?
So it's funny, and I keep going back to the entertainment industry because that was my world before I did this, even though we've been doing it for 10 years or whatever. But I remember, without question, the most successful people I knew, whether it was an actor, director, producer, a studio, the ones who pigeonholed themselves were without question the most successful. And that was such a taboo thing to suggest to somebody. Everybody would say, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I don't want to just do one thing. I don't want to turn down other
actors
business.
Don't want to be typecast.
Right. Typecast. Exactly. And without question, the most successful people were the people who did pigeonhole themselves, because they were the first person people thought of when they had that need. And it translates to this. Absolutely. There's a lot of agents who are like, well, I have a buddy who needs to sell his house, and I have, I know somebody who owns a duplex, and I'll market myself to everybody. I just want a paycheck. I think it's really important to pick something and be the best in that category. So if you can not just niche, but hyper niche yourself, go for it.
Bring something unique to the table, find a way to set yourself apart, because there are so many people. I mean, like actors, there's so many people, there's so many real estate agents. So got to find your way in. For sure.
Yeah. Be the first person people think of for that service.
And to that, how do you differentiate yourself? How did you build your clientele network, and what do you look for in business partners?
I would say the thing that I really brought to the table in starting the company was I did go into Marcus and Millichap, and I feel their training is incredible. And I, took everything from that, the painful cold calls, the metrics, all of that. And obviously, I have a very kind, loving personality. I bring
Most
the
of the
kind
time.
of feminine most of the time. I bring kind of the feminine kind of residential vibe to it as well. So merging the two, I think really was, a good match. And it brings a lot of clients our way for sure.
Yeah. And I think she experienced that firsthand, even when she was at Marcus and Millichap. A lot of the, obviously as a newer agent in that company, she would kind of get the scraps, right? So sure, she'd work on the big 100-unit buildings and stuff, but she'd be able to run off on her own for a fourplex. It was kind of like chump change. And she'd go and she'd meet with the owners and the buyers, and they were very different people. They want to walk through the property. They do care about, the condition. They're not just looking at numbers. The numbers matter too, but it was definitely a bridge to gap. And
it's a lot more hand holding. Yeah. There's a lot of, there's a lot of sweet old grannies who want to have more attention, and
hopefully they're not listening to the podcast. Yeah. Sweet old grannies.
Hey, they're the best. Love the grannies.
Tell us a little bit about the types of clients that you work with.
Sure.
Larger institutional versus smaller buyers and sellers. You mentioned a little bit about that, but can you dive in a little bit more?
I don't think there's anybody in the industry who works with a more diverse group of people than us, because we work with the institutional people. We have
buyers and sellers.
We have to give you an example, we have highly sophisticated institutional, investors and developers who are used to building, 500 unit buildings, where they don't know our smaller, fourplex model. Yeah. So they're coming to us saying, hey, Liz, Ian, give us your advice. What should we do? Here's a floor plan. What's wrong with our floor plan? Help us out. So we have those people. We have, the little old grannies. We have the, old mom and pops, traditional.
There may be like the third generation owner of, a Burbank triplex or something like that, and they know nothing about real estate. They need guidance. And I think that kind of goes back to your last question about what sets you apart. How did you earn, business and build upon it? I think a big part of it is you can't just follow tips. You have to be good at what you do. And Liz is amazing with number crunching. She's really good at valuing properties. And then going back to what she said before about being honest, we're honest with it. And we don't just pick a number and say, oh, you want to sell your building for, $3 million. Okay, we'll list it there. We really say, look, there's no way that it's going to sell for $3 million. Here's why. Here's everything else available on the market. There's better cap rates available. There's no way people would believe these rents if we set them to, equivalent cap rate. Buyers are smart. They've got a lot of resources. They show up to showings with,
Zillow pulled up,
Zillow rentals in their hand, and they're looking at what the inventory and how long it's been sitting and stuff. So you really can't BS people too much. You have to be honest and walk your talk. And that was a big thing, I think, for us as well. She would zero in on the number that a property would transact at every time. I've never seen her fail in the hundreds of buildings that we've sold. Even if we price, we tend to price them a little below that number, and we always hit that number.
Yep, that's cool.
And
I think in today's market, especially, I think people got cocky for the past couple of years and kind of started to pursue the price high. I think people are going to need a check and, go back to that sort of methodology.
Yeah. It seemed like 4 years ago, you could bring a property to market and have it, 5-10% above market. And maybe it would sit for a month, but then the market would bail you out. The market would catch up to you. And all of a sudden, now it's a great looking deal. Right. And I feel like a lot of brokers were, kind of enjoying not having, tight market insights and underwriting to support your number. So I'm doubly excited now to see, how that, trend continues now that the market's starting to shift now.
Those listings are sitting.
Right.
And they're not moving because agents are putting them up, and then the sellers are calling us.
Right. Right. They're like, hey, what happened? This person told me I could get X, but we haven't seen an offer close to X since we listed it. And now the market's sliding. I'm starting to panic.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. What's in store for the future of your company? Anything exciting on the horizon?
Yeah, so we're building pretty rapidly. I would say, we've got a great team together. Again, we're kind of the anti-agent and the anti-brokerage. We do things a little bit differently. We, instead of focusing on the brokerage model with licensed agents doing their own thing, we bring on salaried agents to just be an extension of our team, and they rock it. Everybody has their cog in the wheel that they focus on. Again, like more of a hyper niche, somebody who's just focusing on getting offers written and submitted, somebody who's just focusing on, overcoming obstacles in escrow. So we have an amazing team full-time who are working really hard, and we're really impressed with them, and we're building them up as much as we can. We've built up our leasing team. We've got 4-person leasing team cranking out a few hundred units a year. We started a property management division at the beginning of this year, and that's going really well. We're adding units like crazy. And that's something that we put off for a long time, but finally we decided we're just leaving money on the table. We need to offer this service, and it's great. Again, it's a win-win. We're able to price that service below what most people are doing, and we care a lot more about what our landlords, I think, making sure that their bottom dollar makes sense. You have a lot of management companies that are looking at 100-unit buildings, and they can afford to just call any plumber that's available on the weekend after hours. We know how slim those margins are on like a 1920 triplex. So we really are price sensitive with maintenance and management. But as far as what else is on the horizon, it's kind of an exciting time to chat with us because we're not there yet. But by the time that this launches, it might be by the time that this podcast is out, we're doing a little bit of a pivot, not 100%. We have the 2 to 4 unit specialist. That's our main company, and that's going to continue as a brand in a much larger company. We're going to have a few more brands. We have a 5+ brand, because the truth is that we sell a dozen or so, 10 unit, 8 unit, 15 unit, 20 unit, whatever each year. And that looks a little silly to have the 2 to 4 unit specialist sign out front of a 22 unit building. And we have a small lot brand because we work with a lot of developers who are also building small lots. We have a land brand, and that's all going to fall under the umbrella of myunits.com. So that's actually you're one of the first people to hear about that. So
awesome. Oh, so we've got an announcement.
It is an announcement. Yeah, absolutely.
That's exciting. Wow. Well, congratulations. I'm very excited to see all these roll out, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy the same kind of success you have if you're applying the same model. No reason why you shouldn't be able to, enter every space with this hyper niche focus and, attention to detail and care for your clients. So that's extremely exciting.
Thanks, man.
Zooming out a bit, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the market right now and the LA multifamily scene. We've touched on it a little bit. Everybody knows by the time they've seen this, the market has shifted pretty quickly. And you touched on something when I think it may have been before we started recording, that in the last 60 days, you've seen more escrow fallout than you have ever, which is interesting because at the start of the pandemic, there was clearly a ripple of uncertainty, and a bunch of deals fell out of escrow because buyers weren't sure what was going to happen. I think, however, in the last 60 days, we've seen more escrows fall apart than we saw at the beginning of the pandemic.
Absolutely.
100%.
And that's a great comparison, actually, because I was rock solid in 2020. I had zero fear, 100%. We're a little spoiled, right? For as long as we've been a company, we've been in a growing market and an accelerating market, and business has been better than the year prior. But in 2020, I had no doubts everything was going to be fine because we had our finger on the pulse of the rentals. So while everybody was bailing on escrows, I was calling them idiots. I was like, by the time you come back to me and say that you want to get back in escrow, I'm going to be charging you more. I promise. The rents are strong. We're still putting tenants in places. Doesn't matter that there's lockdown. Doesn't matter. We're still locking up rents at record-breaking prices. The market's going to be fine. I was 100% sure that that was the case, and it was. Right now, I'm not that confident.
What I will say
Yeah.
from our experience, since we do handle so much of the new construction,
Yeah.
I think we're very fortunate that we're taking the least hit because this model has always been, because there's not a lot of upside on new construction deals, we've always factored in a higher return right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So, whereas we were selling our old stuff for 3.5 cap rates or 4 cap rates, the new construction, we've always been able to offer, a 4.8 cap, a 5 cap, a 5.2 cap, whatever. It did start to dip into the 4s. But now I think we're still going to be able to successfully sell these. Will it be at a slightly higher cap rate, like a 5.5 cap? Yeah, but there is still money left for the developers. So will their margins shrink a little bit? Yeah. Will some developers say, hey, I'm going to hold and wait it out so that I can go back to selling at a 4.8 cap rate? Yeah, but some of them will sell, and I think that'll still give buyers a great investment. And I do think, the new construction, obviously the stock market is pretty terrifying these days. I see a lot of people going into, more tangible assets like gold. I think the new constructions are phenomenal because they're tangible, the rents are strong, and these give higher cap rates than anything else. So I think it's a win.
They do.
Buyers.
The rents are still strong. Maybe vacancy rates up a little bit, but I think that's for a couple of different reasons going into the holidays. I think going into midterms, we have a lot of things that are up in the air for sure. That I think that's going to dictate what actually happens more than anything.
Yeah.
But we are definitely seeing a lesser impact on multifamily than in any other, sector of real estate or investment. So it's bold to say, but I firmly believe that smaller multifamily buildings are the closest you can get to recession proof, because when people can't afford to buy, they're going to rent. So, somebody who just got priced out of buying their first home, but has a growing family, they're going to come take our, $6,000 a month, $6,500, a month, 5-bedroom townhome in Mid City, instead of buying that house that they were looking at.
Yeah.
So in Culver or whatever, so I think that it's, no matter what, it's the best place that you can put your money, even though it is taking a little bit of a hit. And interest rates don't have as much of an impact on us as maybe other, like selling houses, because we have so many cash buyers. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of offers we get on our buildings and buyers we work with are people who are in a 1031 exchange or have an OZ fund set up, or they've just got cash sitting in the bank and they're like, I'm not putting it in the stock market. I can't let it sit there depreciating. I need to put it somewhere. And so far, this has been the safest place for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both, immediately and as a long-term hold.
So that gets to my next question, which, you both also invest in multifamily. Can you share a little bit about your current investment strategy or long-term philosophies that are strong, or any recent pivots that you've made to stay ahead of the curve?
So I think we really, stick to what right? I think that if you want to invest in real estate and you want to build your own portfolio, you have to know the rental market. That's what it all comes down to. You have to know not Los Angeles rental market. You need to know Burbank north of the 5, rental market. You need to know a pocket. You need to know exactly what you're investing in and be confident that rents are going to be consistent. There are people who I think are going to say, okay, Highland Park's on fire. I'll overspend a little bit to get this property because I believe that it's growing. That could be a great investment, but it's also not proven yet. So I think diversifying between things that are a little more risky, but you believe in them because you've been paying attention for the last 5 years to that growing market, and as it's gentrifying, I think as long as you diversify those and sprinkle them in with more A+, always been A+, always will be A+, Toluca Lake, Burbank, Studio City, as long as you kind of diversify in those ways, I think you can't go wrong. Know the numbers. And if you aren't smart enough to figure out the numbers, talk to an agent who is. You have to know what you're investing in. You can't just wing it. As much as I like to shoot from the hip, she kind of wrangles me and she's like, nope, this doesn't make sense. So whatever you're doing, find a way to add value, whether it's building the ADU regulations in California are amazing. You go through that process pretty quickly. Nothing goes as fast as you want it to, but add a unit, add a space above a garage, knock down a wall and make a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, figure a way to add value, but don't overspend, be really careful. You can make a unit look beautiful and be the most desirable place on the rental market without breaking the bank. You can go to Floor and Decor for your tile and your flooring. You can go to Wayfair and Amazon to get really cool, sink faucets and fixtures and showers heads and stuff like that. And they'll be cheaper than anything you'll find anywhere else. So I think just like care about putting out a product that people will like, care about the floor plan, no weird floor plans. We have so many developers that make that mistake. I just want to crank in an extra bedroom. And you're like, okay, well, that you can't really even fit a full bed in here. So it's basically a giant closet. And now the other bedroom that was nice sucks. So just make good decisions, right? Like with any investment, do your homework, get to know an area really well, start with that area and then expand, get to know another pocket neighborhood really well. We're so tempted to invest in other cities and in other states. I want to build something in Joshua Tree or in Nashville, but we don't know those markets. So I'm going to wait until we can actually go spend some time, walk the streets, talk to people, find out if they really actually like living here or if it's just a phase.
I think, now is the time for buyers. I think there's going to be people make money in recessions, especially the cash buyers who can go out and pick up some real estate, at discounted prices.
Right.
So,
Well,
and buy new construction, buy these buildings we sell. They're great.
Yeah.
You can still get a 5.7 cap rate out there.
Did you hear that? Almost
2to4.com.
2to4.com. You can get almost a 6 cap with dense infill Los Angeles multifamily.
Yeah.
Like, how can you beat that? Brings me to my next question. I've got some rapid fire questions or, inquiries for words of advice, just to tap your brains a little bit. First one is, if you were given $10 million today and had to invest it immediately, what would your go to asset type and location be, and why?
We know Los Angeles, so we would stick to Los Angeles.
LA multifamily.
I would diversify to different neighborhoods.
What neighborhoods are you looking at?
Toluca Lake, Studio City, Sherman Oaks.
Mid-city,
West Adams. Look, if you want to do something in Central Hollywood or East Hollywood, that's great. Those areas are going through a little bit of a roller coaster right now between homeless issues, between, people are working and living from home, so they want a little more room and a little more space. They don't necessarily care about being walking distance to everything anymore. They want home to feel more like home. I think that if you want to go to gentrifying areas, you can go to things like Highland Park. Silver Lake is obviously super A+ already. Mid city, West Adams, Toluca Lakes, Studio City, Burbank.
And if you have a lot of time on your hands, go pick up some land and build something.
Building's tough to recommend to anybody. Because I think that you have to have some idea of what you're doing. We see a lot of people lose their shirts when they try it for the first time. You have to be okay, breaking even or losing on the first 1 or 2 projects. And if you don't have that kind of padding, start with easy little flips, like a little bit of like a lipstick thing that's going to be safe. If somebody's really starting out, like owner occupy, move into something and work on it little by little. Like I'm pretty much the risk taker. I'm a big risk taker, but even that being said, I think that people really need to be careful and hedge their bets and make sure that they have a backup plan. Whatever real estate you buy, you should be okay living in it if all else fails, I think that diversifying is big, both in area and product type. 3 and 4 bedrooms are super hot. There's no reason to not build 5-bedroom units, just depending on the area. I think that doing different styles and looks, is good. Just figure out what you can do to provide, make sure that when some when some things are doing well, other things, or when some things aren't doing well, that the other things are likely to be doing well.
Yeah.
$10 million, we'd probably spend it pretty fast.
All right. Well, next one's not a trick question. What's your favorite tool or software that you use on the job?
Crexi, all the way.
Yeah. Crexi's great.
Crexi's great. We've been really
move
happy.
over LoopNet.
Yeah. I think there's been, a lot of activity from Crexi. And I think that I love the service you guys provide. I love seeing the e-blast come in with like 10 of our listings in one email. The fact that you guys do that for us is a great resource. Absolutely. And we've made a lot of long-term relationships with clients who've come through your, platform.
Yep.
Oh,
absolutely.
That's fantastic to hear. I always love hearing when it's working and working well.
Absolutely.
Most common misconception about what you do or the industry that you work in?
That we can do real estate from anywhere. All our friends are like, oh, that's great. You can move, you can do real estate anywhere. We're like, no, once you set up your spot, your farm, you're kind of stuck. So
yeah, it's funny. It's funny how many people say that. We'll be like, oh, we love San Diego. We dream about moving there someday. And they'll be like, well, why don't you? You can do real estate from anywhere. We're like, not really. You're starting from scratch. We're 10 years into this thing,
Yeah.
And maybe it's true. I don't know if it is, but maybe it's true in residential, because you have a lot of one-off clients. Obviously, you make a name for yourself. People see the signs and get to know your brand and personality, and you've met with people already X amount of times. But for residential agent, you could probably pick up a lot easier than somebody who our business is completely relationship based, volume based. The truth is we do zero marketing. We don't spend a dime on marketing. We don't, we barely have our signs on our properties because we don't like getting those calls from just looky-loos and random people walking down the street. All of our business is word of mouth. We do a good job. We impress a developer. We go show another developer what we could do, and what we've done, and then they hire us too. And same thing with buyers. So hey, I bought 2 great buildings from you, so I'm telling everybody else that needs to spend money, to come to you guys. So yeah, I think that's definitely.
One day we'll build the business to all of California and beyond, so we can take our pick.
Yeah,
and maybe move to San Diego.
Yeah.
There you go. It's on the horizon. What's the most creative or interesting project that you've encountered in your career so far?
Probably building for ourselves, doing the whole like Chip and Joanna Gaines thing, because it just added a whole nother full-time thing to our list of stuff that we have to do. I really enjoy it. It gives me a lot more pleasure than just selling properties. I really like getting involved in the creative process. Again, I came from an entertainment background. I fancy myself an artist in a lot of ways. So I get super into the design and
I just love doing the fun financials and harassing Ian when he spends too much money.
Yeah, exactly.
Super fun job.
Exactly. But it's really cool to see something come out of your mind and exist in the real world. One of my favorite books of all time is The Fountainhead. And, you're watching this protagonist, do the same thing and create a vision in his mind and build these beautiful skyscrapers and buildings and stuff. And I've always wanted to do that. So now that we're finally doing that for ourselves, it's really cool. And, and you get excited, you get proud to show people what you're building and what you're doing. And when it works out and you lock up great rents and that kind of proves that you're onto something good, then it feels great.
Yep.
Nothing like seeing a dream realized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to newcomers or developing professionals in your industry?
You got to be tough.
Yeah.
You do. So many people reach out to us to join our team or to, work with us in some capacity or learn from us, which is very flattering. And it's really easy to tell who has it and who doesn't from the get-go. Without question. There's no like, oh, maybe they'll work out. You talk to somebody and they'll be like, yeah, well, like I have these like friends and they have like real estate. So maybe I figured I could start with them and sell their stuff. And then you have somebody who shows up and like, I want to make $1 million a year and
I'll do whatever it takes.
You tell me how to do that. If you want me door knocking, I'll door knock. If you want me cold calling, I'll cold call it. Tell me what to say and I'll do it. That is a person who's going to make $1 million a year. And the people who just kind of think that it's just like this easy backup plan, they're never going to make a dime. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think real estate is ever
like one
a side
paycheck.
job. I
No.
feel like a lot of people look at real estate as, hey, I'll get my real estate license and do some stuff on the side.
Yeah.
I tend to not see that ever
No way.
work.
It's one thing if like you don't have to work. If you're okay and you just want something to keep you busy once in a while, get 1 or 2 paychecks a year, and work with your circle of friends, that's fine. But if you're trying to establish wealth and eventually be able to build your own portfolio, you have to hustle and grind. I mean, the truth is we never turn it off.
And don't do buy side.
Don't do buy side. Yeah.
Don't work the buy side. Buyers are liars. Stay away from them.
No buy side.
Oh, all right, cool. So I'm glad you'd be able to say wait. Look, we act as dual agents on probably 60% of our deals. I mean, which we're very happy about. But we definitely don't focus on buyers. I think that the power goes to the listing agent. And look, that being said, because we do volume, like we're very flexible with, what we're making on each deal. When it's the 10th building I'm selling for the same developer that year. So we see buy side agents walk away with a paycheck sometimes twice the size of ours. I would still say don't be a buy side agent, because that person is running themselves ragged to maybe close a couple deals a year. We are closing a lot more than a couple a year. I think that's where the power goes. And what's the Spider-Man quote? Like, with great power comes great responsibility.
Great responsibility, Uncle
right?
Ben.
No, Uncle Ben, right? Exactly. So like you have to not just control and have the power over these listings, but you have to be responsible with it. You have to make sure that you price things properly. Because if we've got 30 deals on the MLS right now, like we can't just have them sitting. We have to make sure that we're advising sellers properly. That's going to affect the market. It's going to affect what other people are pricing at and what buyers are writing at. So you have to, again, you have to think long-term. What's the long-term vision? How can I keep this being a win-win model for buyers and sellers? I can't just, milk every dollar I can out of whatever buyer comes our way. I have to make sure that this is something that people are going to keep wanting to come back for.
Right.
And
any parting words that you want to share with our audience?
Parting words. I think through the course of this conversation, I've kind of picked up on a little bit of who the listener is. And I think that the last few minutes of our conversation were probably the most valuable for them. You have to hustle, you have to grind, you have to live, breathe, and sleep this. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, no offense, listen to every podcast. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow every Instagram, thing, or go to every, convention or talk or whatever. It means that you have to care about setting goals for yourself, figuring out clearly defined goals, exactly what you want out of your life, and then make the steps, make a, an action plan and follow the steps to get there. And focusing clearly on one thing at a time, I think is really important. That's probably my biggest problem. Is I think I started like 6 companies this year, and she hates me for it, because they're each getting 1/6 of the attention that they deserve, So, focus on one thing at a time, and be ready to grow. That would be a really, maybe not just for the beginners, but for the other brokers out there or teams who are growing and expanding and getting more business. Don't be afraid to grow. That was our biggest flaw, hands down. The size team that we are and the salaries that we're paying now, we should have been paying 6 years ago, without question, before we were making it. And I would just say you have to be prepared to grow. We kind of had this mentality of playing with the house's money. Let's wait until we make a little more and can afford that extra salary. But really, we needed the extra hands sooner.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. And I won't throw you under the bus, but one of us wanted to do that, and one of us was scared too.
Yeah.
but I think that if you believe in yourself, you have to invest in yourself. And a lot of times that means before you have it, you have to take risks. Without question, the person, with the
high
most
risk, high reward.
Yeah. The person with the most pennies at the end is the person who took the most risk. Absolutely. So you can't, there's a lot of there's this mentality of play with other people's money and there's no risk in real estate. You're just kind of transacting between the buyer and the seller. I think you have to put yourself in the shoes of the buyer and the seller, and you have to actually get attached to these transactions as if it was your own purchase or as if it was your own sale. And if you do that, it's going to show in your work. It's going to show in your relationships. You're going to make a better name for yourself. So care, giving a F. is important, for sure. And then I'll tell you two of my favorite quotes in the world, that I don't know how they relate yet, but we'll figure it out. One of my favorite quotes is that the definition of luck is where preparation meets opportunity. My dad said it to me when I was super young. I don't know who said it to him first, but it stuck with me forever. I think that you need to make sure that you are absolutely prepared for whatever comes your way. And we were, there was a wave of construction that came our way. We were ready. We were absolutely prepared to tackle it and show developers what we could do and apply our skill set to that need. So, when people walk by and maybe see a nice house, see a nice car, see that we've got a couple extra bucks in our pocket, I think it's real easy to say that you're lucky. But luck is absolutely, the result of it's not always working hard. It's making sure that you're ready for an opportunity when it comes your way. And then the other quote that I really love that sticks with me every day, especially for any entrepreneurs that want to grow a team or grow a business, is that with structure comes freedom. I think that the more solid foundation that you have, as much as we consider ourselves kind of shooting from the hip, run gun, anti-agents, the truth is you have to have a solid foundation. And the more structured we become as we grow and start delegating to a team with systems, as opposed to just doing whatever we feel like doing that day on our own, without question, the more business we can handle and the more income we can generate. So I think that those are two quotes that apply to every aspect of life. And, I think they can apply to this as well.
And also, just to end that, being willing to delegate. That's always been the hardest thing for me. And the most growth I've done is, in delegating, and that's helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Being able to let go of, specific aspects and trust someone else to take that off your plate, and that it's going to get done right. And I think that comes all the way back to, choosing the right people, having an intuition of who's going to make it, who's not, based on, how ready are they to, get their hands dirty. So that's excellent advice. I think for anybody in commercial real estate or any industry that you're in, I think that you can take a lot away from this. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights. I know you're very busy, and we appreciate you spending time to sit down with us. Where can people find you online if they want to get in touch?
So our website right now is 2to4.com, spelled out, TWOTOFOUR.com. It's kind of a funky one. It works. Everybody likes it. What our branding is 2to4.com, duplex, triplex, fourplex, sales and leasing. But hopefully by the time this launches, we're going to be known as myunits.com.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, social media, LinkedIn, you guys on there?
Yeah, everything's still 2to4.
2to4 units. So Instagram.com/2to4units, all spelled out.
Yep.
Awesome. Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks to everyone that tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one. Right at the end. Thanks to everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one. Visit go.crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app and check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.